Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm going to invite our next speaker up, Mary Mitchell, who's joining us from Dublin Dunleary Education and Training Board, and their presentation is entitled Building Pathways to Success, Empowering Individuals with Autism Through Adult Education.
Thank you very much. As you said, it's empowering autistic adults through education. So I suppose the takeaway from today is to understand how adults learn, to what I mean by holistic education, and what I mean by collaboration with the community. So how adults learn. First of all, as adults, we learn very differently to children. We learn from life experiences. What are our life experiences? And as a tutor, it's important for me to understand how the learners coming to me, their life experiences, getting to know the learner, what works for them. We also learn by what it must be significant and motivating to us. So like I said, they're getting to know the learner, what it means to them, understanding if they're interested in animals that we would teach, or interested in robots, or whatever sometimes they would have a subject that they're passionate about, and it's about teaching skills through their interests, and to be aware of that as tutors. We must be as adults, we like to be taught by self-direction. We don't like to be told what to do. So we would give the learners the information, let them make choices, have group discussions, and to take away from that what they want to learn. I think about learning, understanding how we learn is we need to understand the why. Why are we learning this skill? What's the purpose of it? And by teaching our learners the purpose of the skill and what it can change in their life, when you learn a skill like that, you learn the skill for life. You have it, you understand it, and it continues with you. As adults, we love to problem solve. When we problem solve, we release endorphins in the brain. We feel really good about ourselves, and this gives us confidence. And that's what we promote in the classroom, problem solving. One thing we all have as learners, everybody here has it. As an adult, we have this resistance to learning. And when you recognize that in yourself, and when the learners recognize that in themselves, it makes us all much more open to learning. And an example I can give for myself in my own life is that a friend of mine wanted me to go and learn French with her. I wasn't really interested, but I just went along to support her. We both went to the classes. She learned so much at that class. She felt it was a fantastic teacher. Everything was good in it. But for me, I didn't really learn that much in it because I wasn't open to the learning. And that's what I'd say about coming here to the Congress today, or, over the last few days, is to look at what, sometimes I'm sure you have gone to talks and you think, oh, that's not really for me. But if you check yourself and you open your mind to learning, that you will actually get something out of it. And that's something I have to check myself all the time to try and, to open my mind to learning. And if we do that as adults, we learn a lot more new skills. We use universal design for learning, and I know you're all very familiar with this. But in the classroom, we would, some of our students, they come into us in the college. Some we go out into the community and into their services. So what we do is that when we think of teaching somebody or for the adult learning, we look at what's good for them, how does it work. We would use text, audio, visual, we would do a lot of role play, but we also do experiential learning, going out into the community and practicing those skills. Now often when we do them in the classroom, it isn't the same. They are lost when they're translated into the community. So then we know we can go back to the classroom, make the mistakes in the classroom, and get the skill corrected when we go back out into the community to give the person the confidence that they need. It must be relevant. When the subject we're teaching must be relevant to that individual, and that's something we really struggle with tutors, is to make it relevant to each individual student. But we really work hard at that, and we work with the learner on that. We use chunking, and chunking is where you provide a small amount of information and you build blocks on that to give as much information as possible. And Cirque du Soleil, it's absolutely fantastic art skill, and that's how they learn their skill. It's chunking. They learn one step at a time, and if you can imagine that, there's nothing you can't learn through by using chunking when the learner is ready. Active engagement, we also, if a learner isn't actively engaging, they're not learning. That we know that in the classroom. So we're very conscious of our classroom. Like I mentioned earlier, some learners are not able to come down into the college. They're not ready for that. So we would go into an environment where they feel safe. We use the largest rooms in the college, and that they would have a door out that they could go outside if they needed a break. We would also, in the classroom, there's no problem getting up and walking around, and we would have, drinks and snacks there in the classroom for the learner. Other research we look at the theories of learning. Every tutor understands the theory of learning, and we share that knowledge between us. The learning in groups, how can we manage somebody that's more dominant in the group and somebody that's not engaging? These are skills that we constantly, we're constantly evolving and learning ourselves to improve on, and we have discussion groups about this with other tutors. Literacy. Looking back at literacy, traditionally literacy was reading, writing, and numeracy. But today, defined by the Adult Literacy for Life strategy, we know that, that literacy is the skills that helps us function fully in society. And what I mean by that is when we talk about financial literacy, which is budgeting, managing your money, health literacy, taking care of yourself, how to manage your health, digital literacy, media literacy. And I suppose digital literacy is so important. We're in a digital age. It's changing every single day. And as tutors, we need to be up to date with that and to be able to give the tools to the learner to help them progress fully in society. Some learners come to us and they are not able to write, or they have great difficulty in writing or reading. So we use apps and skills to help them develop those skills. Other things, that's why I'm here at this Congress today, is we look at international studies, best practice. How can we bring that into our community and to help progress the learners on? These are the strategies we use here in Ireland, and we want research-based. We don't want to be just doing the same thing over and over again. We want what's best practice, and it must be research-based, and that's how we run our classes. What do I mean by holistic education? I suppose I'm talking about the emotional development of the person, the social behaviour. Social behaviour is so important. We want, the autistic person or the autistic adult to be themselves. But there are certain things that are socially unacceptable, and we see that in the group all the time, and we work on those skills to improve them. And it might be picking your nose, passing wind in an inappropriate way, whatever that is. And we do find that the learners, they don't know how to manage that. And that's our role, is to teach those new skills. Conflict resolution. How can you, when somebody says no, not get offended, and how can you give your opinion without offending others? That's something we really work on. Personal development, that's where they set goals, and we help them with the goals, and we check in with them to make sure they're achieving those goals. Social skills, we use the community-based module, where we have the financial services in the community, the pharmacies, other businesses in the community come in and they give talks to the learners to tell them what's expected at work. What does the pharmacy provide? When we're talking about healthcare, we use the HSC, that this is really, social skills are everything, and that's what makes a person independent. Critical thinking, when we do something in the community or in the classroom, how can we improve on that? How can we go back? How can the learner improve on that? It's their voice, it's not my voice. Let them look at. We use role play in the classroom for this. With another tutor, we work in pairs. And in that time, I suppose, in the beginning, the learners, they're not very critical of us when we do something wrong. But as I can tell you, as the year goes on, they become very critical when we're doing the role plays in the classroom. Practice lessons, we use that as a safety in the classroom so that when we go out into the community to do a skill, that they are prepared and ready. It doesn't always transfer. We might go back and do more work in the classroom. Core academics, we work on core academics because the reality is that to progress in life, you need education. And if you're going for a job, an employer needs to know what level you're at. So for that, we deliver courses from QQI level 2 to 5 on the National Framework of Qualifications. This is just some of the groups that we work with in the community. Revenue, to know how to go on to a MyGov and do a My Account. My Welfare, My Welfare, on Post. They are all very supportive. There's one picture there of the local park where we go for walk and talk, that's where you get the most information, and it's trying to build up a relationship between the tutor and the learners. MABs are fantastic. We engage with the libraries, the financial institutions, and all of that really, that engagement comes from the strategies that I showed you earlier from the Irish government. So just to reflect then, what am I talking about here today, is to understand how adults learn, what I mean by holistic education. That's what we do in Dublin Dún Laoghaire Education and Training Board, and how we collaborate with the community. When you're living in a community that is transient, it's not a little village, sometimes it can be hard to create a community. But where I work in Dublin 15, we have managed that by engaging with local businesses, local services in the area, and it has become more, I suppose, more of a community. And also, we are, yeah, I see the yellow card, yes. Okay, so yeah, no, we are a community, I suppose, but the learners that we engage with are learning, but also the people in the community, they are open to learning, but they don't know how to engage with people or with autistic adults or with people that have a disability. They fear it, and that's a major problem we would see. Thank you very much. Now, was I on time?
I have to say, this is the most time-efficient group we've had. So
I know.
No pressure for our final two speakers. But we actually do indeed have time for a couple of questions, if anyone would like to ask a question of Mary. I can kick things off. Mary, I actually do have a little bit of a question. You know, we've had a lot of discussion actually over the last number of days around transitions, and particularly that supporting that transition to higher education or adult learning. And I was just wondering, what kind of support do you see in need of support, first of all, and you know, do you work with secondary schools, or what sort of supports are available, say, when students, autistic students, are transitioning from school into that adult learning environment?
I suppose for us, that really comes about. I deal mainly with adults, and there is transitioning programs there. One of the things that we have found is that through COVID, a lot of adults, autistic adults, have been forgotten about in the education and in work placement. So during COVID, especially if they were attending day services, it was more about keeping the person safe, when really what we're, you know, everybody has that right to education. So the transition, I have to be honest, I'm on this program 2 years, and it was basically going out into the day services and bringing people from the day services into education so that they could progress on in their education. So the transition can be very difficult at times, especially if somebody is unfamiliar, I suppose, with their surroundings. And that's why we would, in the day services, we work with an organisation, one particular organisation, and we would meet the learners where they are comfortable first. And that's really how we transition into the college. And really, then they can progress on to university. We would work with the transition on that as well, with the universities, wherever they would be going. We would have visits and improve on that as well.
Fantastic, Mary. Thank you. We have time for another question. If anyone in the audience there has a question for Mary. Yes, we have one there. We'll take that.
Hi, Mary. Well done. That was really excellent, and delighted to hear about all you found out about adult learners. I was just really interested in the UDL approach that you spoke about, and in particular you spoke about chunking, and I was wondering if this could be applied, you know, to younger learners, and if there's any curriculum that you're aware of that would use that approach, or any further information about that, or where you found out about it.
Yeah, chunking is really, it is about giving a small amount of information and building on it. It can be so overwhelming to get information on a particular subject. I don't know if you start a university or whatever, and you go in and you get all of this. It's just so overwhelming for everybody across the board. But it's about, yeah, I think universal design for learning is for everybody. It's supposed to be in all schools, in all colleges, everywhere. But I think just saying that you have it, you have to understand what it means. It's like the theory of adult learning. We learn very different to children. Children, when they're young, mom tells them what to do, and they love mom, and they'll do everything. Go to primary school, it's the same. The teacher tells them what to do, but as they progress up into secondary school, think, why do I need that? And the other thing is understanding the why as we're adults to learn. That's really important. So yeah, the chunking is universal design for learning should be in all education systems, whether it's primary, secondary, university. Yeah,
Thanks
okay.
very much. Great question.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. We'll have one more round of applause for Mary. Thank you so much. Thank you.